Here we are, we're live once again. It's been a little bit since I've done one of these live streams. If you're seeing this part, it's probably because you're watching on the lives or on the replay. Let me pause this over here. All right. So any second now, we'll be having some people jump onto the live stream here. So as you're jumping on, you guys know the whole deal is start calling out roll call. Who are you? Where are you from? And just let's get the conversation rolling this way. And actually, I'm gonna be jumping on over here. Hey guys, Alan, Hannah, good seeing you. I'm gonna jump over on Instagram real quick, let everyone know that we just went live. I'm gonna do like an Inception thing. There we go. All right, we are live. Let everyone know so they come over and join us. There we are. So, how are you guys doing today? Hannah and Alan, they're the first couple that have jumped on and said hey. So, let us know how your week's going. And then, as other people are jumping in, be sure to jump in and say hi. Let us know that you're out there and that you're not just lingering in the shadows, but that you want to be part of the conversation. So, I'm super pumped to be back on the mic, back onto the live streams. I've been missing these a ton. Top of the morning. Thanks, John. Andrew, hey, good seeing you out there. Joseph says, yo, Nick, nice to see you back at it. Thanks, buddy. It's nice to be back at it. I'm very happy and very excited to be back here talking with you guys, having these types of conversations, especially jumping back in on today's conversation. I got a lot of texts and messages over on Instagram, and then obviously the comments down on the video of people just saying that this was something that they needed to hear, and I figured that was probably the case. I skipped Joe Rogan for you. Thanks, man. That's funny. That's awesome. Mitchell Scott, hey Nick, welcome back. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Alan says, all good, Nick, and you? I'm doing well. Developing HP5 while chatting with me. Nice. That's exciting. Alan, I think if I remember correctly, I'm trying to remember, I've seen a bunch of you guys as developer and film combos. You're using Ilfasol 3, is that correct? With your HP5? That was my go-to setup for a while, so let me know if I'm wrong. Hannah says, I'm okay, thanks, Nick. Turned 25 yesterday. Hey, happy birthday. So I'm hoping to get out and work on some photography in the next week as a way of celebrating. Nice, that'd be amazing. And happy birthday. That's awesome. Jacob says, hey everyone, been way too long since we've been together. Yes. And Jacob, you got the, you still have the whole band hammer there. You got the whole, what's that called? Moderator, yes. And somehow I'm still the moderator. I think you're the moderator until I make you not the moderator. So use your privilege wisely, my friend. Let's see here. John Roberts says, happy belated birthday. Nice. Yeah, everyone wish Hannah a happy belated birthday. 25 was a pivotal point in my life. That was, at least for me, I know that it's different between men and women, but 25 was where my metabolism changed and everything like that. I shouldn't even be sharing that. I know that it's quite a bit different between men and women. So at the same time, 25, that's awesome. You've made it this far. I feel like at the age of 25, it's a big thing to celebrate because it means that people were smart enough to make it like a quarter way through life. So that's such a ridiculous thing to say, but at the same time, I'm saying stupid things right now. So here we go. You know, you're not on a mic for like a month and a half. You just come back and you start saying all sorts of stupid things. So great memory, Nick. Ilfasol 3, fantastic. Nice. Yeah, are you, wait, did you say you're developing HP5? Alan, are you pushing it at all, or are you just developing at box speed? I barely remember 25. That was almost 20 years ago. Nice. Don't limit us to 100. No, I'm with you. Andrew, I'm with you. Let's go for, you know, I'm shooting for like 180. 200 something. I actually just was hearing a story about a neighbor of some of my friends at work. Their neighbor is 103 years old. 103, that's amazing. That's incredible. So they had the discipleship trip that I taught last week. So that's a big reason why I couldn't start the videos a week earlier than I've been back home from Montana and everything. But the week that I got back from Montana, I had to teach multiple days in a row. It was back to back, and they had 22 high school students going to this discipleship trip. And throughout the week, they actually took these students and they served their neighborhood. So the neighbor that was 103 years old, they raked his leaves and they helped him out around the house, and it's just amazing. I absolutely love hearing that. So yeah, Andrew, I'm with you. Let's break 100 and let's crush it. You know, it's about time we start living much past 100 years old, you know. So there we go. Alan says box speed for the moment. Nice. And then Hannah says, haha, thank you, Nick. I honestly didn't think I'd make it to 25 with everything I've endured, so that was a big thing for me. Yeah, I can imagine. Let's see here. Well, fantastic. What time are we at? 5:11, so I think we're about, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 minutes in. So we'll just get rolling with it. And if you guys are on your computer or anything to where you could jump over to Instagram and just let people know that that we're in the middle of a live stream, I honestly believe that this conversation that we're about to have today on today's topic is going to be very freeing for a lot of people. So I definitely think if there's any of the live streams that are worth sending out to your friends and sharing with your friends, this is definitely one of them. So and I say that completely humbly, not in complete humility. Let me say it that way, because I think that's proper English. This isn't me going, hey, you know, my live streams are the stuff. This is just me going, this is a conversation that needs to happen in the creative community in general. So if they could get here and be able to add to the conversation, that'd be fantastic. So go and let your friends know, or run and tell that. But if you're watching this morning's live, or not live stream, but this morning's 2 Minute Tuesday, we talked about creative identity and the identity crisis that I kind of have watched for far too long. I've been wanting to make this video for a while, and as I was not making videos and thinking about what's going to be the first video that I come back with, this had to be the one, because I've been watching it go on, and I've experienced it in the past. I've experienced it probably even just recently. I know just recently, because I was kind of sharing in the video this morning a little bit about coming back and kind of my wrestle with shooting so much work on the way back home from Montana on the iPhone. But anyways, long story short, the whole issue and the whole topic today is how, as creatives, as photographers, as artists, there's this trap that we can get into to where we could start finding our identity in the tools that we're using, or the processes that we're doing, or the aesthetics that we're shooting with, or anything like that. It's one thing if people start attributing it to us. Hey, you know, oh, they typically shoot, you know, pushed HP5. That's how most people kind of know my work. And they go, hey, I know it's a Nick exposed photo when I see it, because you just have a look. And it's, you know, that's one thing. That's also nothing that I'm trying to maintain. That's just something that naturally happens. Who knows? You know, I could start shooting like washi film or whatever that stuff is, and maybe it goes in a completely different direction. Maybe it starts to feel more like, what's going on? No, not at a time like this. My Firefox is trying to get me to update Firefox. I only use Firefox for the live streams, so mine is probably super far out of date. Anyways, so once again, you know, there's these things that kind of naturally progress and naturally happen within our art and within our creativity, within our photography. But there's a big thing to where we could start thinking that, you know, this whole idea of what's other people going to think when I start shooting color film. What is other people gonna, and you know, like, I'm not terrified to shoot color film. I have a whole film fridge full of color film, and I'm actually working it out to where I can get it processed very soon here. So I'm working on that stuff, and color photos will probably be hitting the stream soon, you know. And if you were to talk to me maybe a year ago, that would have been a very difficult thing for me, is going, no, I'm a black and white shooter. I shoot black and white, and that's what I want to do. Well, that's what I wanted to do at that point in time. But it's the moment that we start making these gigantic statements of, like I said this morning, these declarations of this is who I am, know me for this. The moment we start to question that is the moment that we start to feel like we've lost our identity, or we go into this identity crisis moment. Mark, what's up, buddy? Good seeing you out there. But this identity crisis moment to where, even if it's not necessarily based off of what other people think of us, there's still this point of going, wait, what's my photography all about? And that's why we're asked these questions all the time. This entire 2 Minute Tuesday series has always been, I shouldn't say always, it started off something different, but it's become this thing to where we're constantly questioning, why is it that we're doing the things that we're doing? Why is it that I'm shooting the way that I'm shooting? And is there other ways that I should be expressing myself? Is there other avenues to run down? And we've talked about it in the past about how we shouldn't be slave to our creative process, and how our creative process should always be slave to us. I really think that this is actually just another side of that coin, to where it's going, sometimes we, hey Jules, good seeing you out there. Unfortunately, I'm at work now. I will jump on the video later on tonight. Well, thanks for jumping in and saying hi to us while you had a moment. Anyways, again, like I said, I already covered all this in the topic this morning, but I really want to dive into this, and hopefully you guys are formulating some thoughts, and I really want to hear from a lot of you guys. I know that some of you guys even said that this was a giant challenging subject for you at the moment, and that a lot of you guys are actually starting to wrestle through this recently. So it seems to be kind of a well-timed topic, but at the same time, I think that's the case because there's just this virus spreading through the photographic community, which on the other side, the photographic community that we're in, our photographic community here, the people that I communicate with, everyone in this chat, I feel like it's a different breed within photographic communities, but there's still some of these vices that we still fall into. And I just want to kind of throw this one out there and really kind of just nip this in the bud and have a solid conversation on it. And that's what I hope we can do today, is just really dive in deep on this topic and have a conversation to just break this off of ourselves and remove ourselves from the idea of, I am defined by what I create. I'm defined by the aesthetics of the stuff that I create. I'm defined by the gear I shoot. I'm defined by the process that I do. And more so getting back to the point to where, what I hope comes from this conversation is we walk away going, you know what, I'm a creative. I'm an artist. Whatever that looks like at this given moment is what it looks like. I was talking to someone, I can't remember if it was on Instagram in the chat there or if it was in the comments on the video this morning, but it's this whole idea that, 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, even people, we have 23 people that it shows me are in here right now. I think we actually have a couple more because it didn't start counting until later. But 20, let's just say 25 people. The 25 people of us right now, 5 years down the line, some of you guys might be doing something completely different. And if we don't understand this point today, then it might actually hinder you from being able to step into the things that you might want to do in the future. If I'm sitting here going, I will only shoot HP5 push 2 stops, or I'll only shoot film 2 stops over, whatever it might be, there might be an area of creativity that I might want to step into, but then I'm apprehensive because, well, I'm the HP5 plus 2 guy. If I do anything other, then, how am I going to be known as an artist? How am I going to be recognized as an artist? How am I going to, what if my artistic vision just dies because I step into shooting Delta 100? I don't know. I absolutely love Delta 100, by the way. It's one of my all-time favorite films. Anyways, do you understand what I'm saying? Some of you guys, some of the people in the 25 that we have here might be writing poetry, might be songwriting, might be dancing, might be painting, might be... The thing is, there's going to be other ways for us to express our creativity in the future, and if we can remove ourselves from the idea that we need to be defined as a film shooter or as a even a photographer, then it will actually start opening up doors that we might not have otherwise known were open. I'm going to share 2 more thoughts, and then I'm going to kick it off to you guys. So as I'm sharing these thoughts, I want you guys to be kind of sharing your experience with this. What's this like in your life right now? Do you think that you might be struggling from some of this? Are you recognizing any of this on your life? Are you seeing this in the community? Anything like that. But as I was thinking more on this topic today, I was just thinking of guys like Rauschenberg and Picasso and Da Vinci, and even contemporary artist of Anselm Kiefer. All of these guys, if you look up any of their work, and I highly suggest, we've talked about Anselm Kiefer on the show in the past because he's one of Emily's favorite artists and has actually become one of my favorite artists. He's just an amazing artist that has this wide breadth of work. Also Doris Salcedo, another artist that Emily really follows, to where she's done installations of chairs, she's done different weaving and patchery kind of stuff, she's done painting, she's done all these different things. When I think about the breadth of work that these guys were able to create, when I was out in New York last year, actually this month of last year, we went to MoMA, and there was a Rauschenberg show at the MoMA, and just walking through the show and just seeing the extent of work that Robert Rauschenberg was able to create in his lifetime, the extent of work that he was able to create without having any kind of barrier holding him back. There was large installations, there was even liquid installations, there was paintings in lithography and photography, and the photography that he was doing was absolutely like mind-boggling. And it was really one of these things to where he embraced creativity, and as it wasn't any kind of like draw to photography, it wasn't any kind of draw to sculpture or installation work or anything like that. It was just creativity at its finest. It was just mystery and delving into different ideas and delving into different problem solving ideas and all these different things that really kind of, I would honestly say that the Rauschenberg show that I'd seen is probably one of the greatest shows that I've seen at any art museum that I've ever gone to from a single artist, because it was just literally walking through, you just get hit and then hit and then hit by piece after piece after piece. And it was such a wide variety. And that's exactly, I think, what we're talking about today. I'm not saying that you have to have a wide variety of things. I'm not saying that you have to have this super diverse portfolio of artwork, but at the same time, not being held up by limitations because we identify with one thing in particular, but allowing ourselves to create, allowing ourselves to run through the rabbit trails of life and really just chase down creativity and mystery and curiosity in general. So with all that being said, I have a lot of comments to catch up on, but you guys, I really want to hear you guys' thoughts on this. I think that there's some key principles, some key ideas, some key nuggets here that we could really dive into today that I think for whoever ends up on the live stream today, whoever watches it on the replay later on, I think is really going to benefit your creative walk moving forward. So first of all, also, if you're liking the video so far, if you're liking this live stream and the community that we have, give it a thumbs up and just hit the like button down below and let YouTube know that it's worth sending out in front of everyone else. So let's see here. Ellen says, such an interesting topic that I don't know my thoughts on it exactly. It's great to develop a style, being consistent in your approach, but it's also important to try new things. Balance, I guess. And Alan, I love that. And I love that this is one of the first, topic or first responses on this topic, because honestly, I think the big thing too is what I've noticed in photography, and this may be playing into part of it, is what I've noticed into photography is this idea of we have to find what our creative voice is. And we think of it as something to be discovered, something to be found. Versus, I guess, if we go back to the conversations type video, and I constantly draw back on that video, but the whole idea of having these conversations, honestly, I think finding our creative voice, finding our creative aesthetic is more about having a conversation than it is about having a specific style that we adhere to. Because the thing is, there's times where I go through and I'm very heavy-handed in my editing of contrast. I'll print in the darkroom and I'll make things super punchy and contrasty. I'll print on the inkjet printer. I'll make things super punchy and contrasty. And then there's other times where it's going, you know what? I've had a little bit too much of this contrast. I'm going to, start, having actual midtones in my images and stuff like that. And there's still, I think, a creative aesthetic that's there despite the contrast being there or not. And we almost think of creative aesthetic as kind of like a preset in Lightroom that we add to every single image. We start to think of creative aesthetic as this one stop, if I could just bring my black points to here, and if I could just bring my white points to here, and then bring my midtones to here, it'll be my creative aesthetic. But at the same time, I think it's something that evolves over time. It's something that our creative aesthetic comes more from our visual perspective than it does come from any kind of aesthetic that we can add as, a contrast filter on the darkroom, or, some curves adjustments in Lightroom or anything like that. I think our creative aesthetic starts to change when, recently I've gotten into watches, in just the mechanical and automatic watches, and just going back and looking through vintage watches, and this is something new for me to delve into. But at the same time, in my mind, it makes total sense that over time, looking at these, vintage Rolexes, these vintage Omegas, these vintage things, geeking out on this, learning all sorts of new things on this, looking at the movements that happen on the inside, the movement of the movements, and all these different things, I would be hard pressed to say that wouldn't inform some of my creative thought process moving forward. That wouldn't inform some of the reason on why I choose one tool over another tool moving forward, right? And that's just one example. If someone gets into ballet and they get into classic ballet, all of a sudden now they're watching gesture, they're watching movement, they're watching lines that are being created by individuals, and they're watching this movement of pieces within a scene that I would have to think next time they go out to photograph is going to influence and inform the way that they approach a scene. All of a sudden, when they see this gesture of a tree that looks like a ballet dancer up in whatever pose, now they have a response to that. And all of a sudden, the creative aesthetic, the things that we're drawn to, the things that our eyes draw to, the creative tropes that we have, and even you have someone that operates in all sorts of different, and I'm just kind of running off on a rant. You guys know what I do. Even going from a very flat type of editing to going and seeing a dramatic movie, to where the light and shadow is super, super stark and contrasty. All of a sudden that might start influencing things and going, wait a second, I watched the Godfather trilogy the other day, and now I have this creative aesthetic just burned into my retina, to where now as I'm walking through, I used to be attracted to very mid-tone contrasty, but now it's stark contrast that I'm chasing after. And once again, if we identify ourselves as the super flat contrast person or the super punchy contrast person, we're actually limiting ourselves on the different places that we can go. So Alan, again, I love your point there, but I think the balance comes in almost releasing and allowing the different expressions that we go through in life to be able to inform where we go with our creative aesthetic and all that kind of stuff. So Jacob says, I've definitely got detracted from shooting, by scooping up gear, and that hit me when I picked up this digital camera for a bit. I was indeed stricken with fear that shooting digital would turn away a lot of audience I've built up, but after a few posts I realized that it doesn't matter. I'm capable of great images regardless of the medium. The workflow just ends up affecting the mind completely. And this also isn't to say that I still am on a, not to and I'm trying to avoid the idea of gear so much, and because we can go back into another conversation of, oh, it's not about the gear, it's all about the creative vision. We've had that conversation so many times in the past, so that's a portion of this conversation, but at the same time it's only a portion of this conversation. There's far, far, far more things that we put our creative identity in, that will put us into a state of depression if we feel like that thing is being challenged. If depression, a form of depression, I'm not going to make a blanket statement, obviously, but a form of depression often comes from this place to where the very person that you think that you are is being challenged, and we start to put ourselves in this emotional rut, because all of a sudden, wait, I've known myself to be this. I established myself to be that 3 years ago when I picked up the camera for the first time, and now I'm doing this. Like, who am I? I don't even know myself anymore. So I do want to steer away from the gear, but at the same time, I'm also not saying that gear doesn't play a part in it. I'm also not saying that gear. What I was gonna say on your point is that oftentimes gear does influence and inform the way that we handle and operate that gear. If you're using a fly-by-wire focus mechanism on a lens versus a manual focus lens, it's informing your synopsis and the way that your mind's clicking with the scene that you're shooting and with the relationship that you have with the subject that you're shooting. It's informing it in a different way. It just is. We're tactile individuals. We're tactile creatures to where, we have the sense of feel for a reason. We have the sense of hearing and sight and smell and all these different things. So yeah, hopefully from here on out, and I might actually skip over points that people make about gear in the future in this conversation, just because I really want to hone in on some other areas, because we've kind of beat the whole gear thing to death in the past. But yeah, Wes says, I think whether it be art, politics, religion, etc., we as society have gravitated more towards tribalism, the idea that specific things solely define our identity as creatives. And I completely understand that, and I completely agree in a lot of different areas. I think it's healthy to be a part of a tribe, for lack of better terminology. I think there's areas to where we can't expect everyone to understand all the different, like, I can't just expect someone who's super into soccer and has nothing to do with cameras to understand the things and to appreciate the things that I appreciate within cameras, right? Within photography, within creative, expression in that way, to where I can't really relate to most sports people. I'm just not into sports in that way. So I think having a tribe is one thing, but when all of a sudden we start to try and identify ourselves to be able to better fit the tribe that we're in, that's when I think things can really kind of go awry. Versus just being in the tribe because people have similar thought process, people have similar feelings on things, people have it. One of the things that we do within tribalism and within this whole idea of setting ourselves up in tribes is we kind of make these absolute blankets. And you see it, again, not to go into gear, but you see it in a lot of digital worlds where Canon versus Nikon, and there's these things to where we start to feel like, if I'm going to be a part of this, then I have to be against the thing that seems to be opposite of this. And then you have people that are having identity crises because they're switching from Canon to Nikon. And that's a weird thing to me. I just don't understand that. So it's kind of going, how can we plug into a tribe? How can we have a community that actually understands the things that we value, the things that we do uphold? There's definitely standards that we uphold. There's things that we value. I value having a very solidly built camera that I can rely on. I value having a camera that has a heritage that has poured into the mechanics of it. There's these things that I value that other people within my tribe can appreciate, can understand, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that I have to make an absolute foot in the ground stance of anything that isn't this is evil or bad or whatever it is, you know, like I don't have to be against all the things that are against this or different than this, if that makes sense. So I'll leave that there and see if we want to go much further down that rabbit hole. Michael says, hey all. Hey buddy, good seeing you. I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to pay too much attention until 11 here. If you're still live, then hopefully catch you soon. Glad you're back, Nick. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate that, if you're still in here. Let's see here. Jacob was going on with his previous comment, says, in summary, I do think a large portion of this struggle is the mental fight that needs to happen in one's artistic identity. And you creating this video has started that, giving the community a step. And that's what I hope to do. You know, I was talking to Spencer, who is on here now. Best live stream on YouTube. Thanks, buddy. I was just talking to Spencer earlier, and you know, hopefully Spencer, this isn't too much. You know, Spencer sent me a text going like, dude, this like really challenged me. This is making me question a lot of the reasons why I do photography or why I'm doing this whole thing. And I like that, you know, it is a creative, and I actually think that when we question things, if we do it in a healthy way, if we're not, I think there's times in the past where I've questioned things within my own process, but I've identified with the process so much. Darkroom printing was a big thing like that for me. Got like a flyaway here that I'm going to try and tame down. There we go. This is the thing, when I cut my hair, it just starts to go all over the place. But this has happened to me in the past where, you know, I started questioning, well, is it necessary? And I actually talked about this probably 2 or 3 live streams ago, but this whole thing of going, you know, at this point in the year to where I was just super hectic busy, it doesn't make sense for me to print in the darkroom. But at the same time, I had made so many bold statements and had really identified myself as someone who is really trying to get a grasp on darkroom printing, somebody that really admires and aspires to, you know, great darkroom printing, that it kind of put me in this place to where when I went back to inkjet printing, I was starting to question a lot of things. And I was, in questioning those things, I was actually kind of attacking something that I'd grabbed onto as identity. So there's a way of challenging the constructs that we know to be true about our photography and about our process that can challenge our identity, or it's going, look, this entire thing is really an adventure. And if I could just understand that darkroom printing might make sense for a season, but it might not make sense for other seasons. And then inkjet printing might make sense for seasons, but then darkroom printing might make sense for other seasons. You know, understanding that the process is supposed to serve the end goal of making work that connects well with people, making work that offers something to the world, making work that's just an expression of my curiosity, whether it even hits the world in the first place or not. When we understand that, and when we open our hands up a little bit more and we don't hold tight so much to the different processes that we go through, we could start challenging things. I could start going, why is it that I do that in the first place? And is that the best thing for this season of my life? And is it actually hindering me, being paralyzed by not being able to, because what was happening with the darkroom specifically for me was I wanted to be in the darkroom so much. I valued being in the darkroom. I didn't want to inkjet because I wanted to be in the darkroom so much, but I just paralyzed myself to where I didn't get into the darkroom at all because I just didn't have the time. And in not having the time, by the time I would have the time, I was so worn out by being frustrated all the other times that I didn't have the time, if you get my drift. To where if I would have just been inkjet printing during that time, I would have still gotten to the end goal. Different end goal, you know, inkjets and darkroom prints, silver gelatin prints, or platinum palladium, or any of the type of prints, they're all different. But at the same time, getting something in people's hands, that's the end goal. So anyways, let's see what else you guys are saying. Whoops. Michael says, Jacob, I think I agree. I think you've highlighted it at the end there. It's important to consider these things to understand our artistic identity. Otherwise, we risk becoming mindless artists. in I think I'm developing a thought in my mind right now, and I'm trying to think on whether or not I believe this to be true. I do think that there's again, it kind of goes back to, and I know, Michael, you weren't in here, I don't think, a minute ago when I was sharing this, but going back to the conversation thing, I think, again, artistic style, artistic vision, artistic aesthetic has much more to do with knowing what we want to say versus how we need to go about saying it. I think we could get a little bit more like constrained on the things that we're trying to say. If we can hone in very, very well on the things that we want to say, but we oftentimes, because it's easier to hone in on, we hone in on the ways that we're trying to say it, and we kind of make that the thing, and oftentimes that actually becomes the thing that people are trying to say, instead of actually trying to say anything with their artwork at all they're talking about is the the perfection of this film or the perfection of that film or whatever it might be, to where I think we start to idolize the process, whereas it's much more about figuring out why it is that we're trying to say the things that we're trying to say and allowing the process to serve that. Because if we get so caught up in idolizing the process, then we're molding the things that we're trying to say to fit the process, and we're not actually doing the things that we're trying to say justice at all. So I think that kind of goes with what you're talking about with our artistic identity, in not becoming mindless artists. I think as long as we have something to say, we're not just mindless artists. There's a thing of honing in on and improving and perfecting the skills that we have, but at the same time doing so understanding that I'm just sharpening the knife for the belt, whereas the next time around I might need to pick up the hammer, or the next time around I might need to pick up the screwdriver, and then at that point I'll hone in on that tool, not going, this knife is going to be the way that I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. That's where we start to put ourselves in a bit of a pickle. Alan says, great points above. I think it's a good idea to think of two separate strands in your creative vision. One is the look of your images. One is what you're saying. 100%. That's exactly what we're talking about. I love it. Just producing content to feed the ever hungry followers we have. I see, and that's what you're saying is the mindless artist. And I think that this even, that's worked into it. That's definitely a part of it. I think that there's a part to where we get so caught up in what we think other people want. But I think that it's also, once again, to where it's not just about gear. I also think it's not just about trying to feed the hungry beast of social media. I think oftentimes we kind of build the thought process of what the expectations are of the community. If we actually ask the community, I would almost say that most of the time they're going to respond in a completely different way than how we think that they're going to respond. Unless we've asked them multiple times on similar subjects and we know kind of how they think on that stuff. But I think that there's these points to where we start idolizing the process, and in doing so we actually think that our community, because they're much like us, is idolizing the process as well, in that if we start tainting the process on any kind of level, then they're going to think that we're betraying them or that we've betrayed the tribe or anything like that. And that's something that we really need to address. We really need to combat. But then there's other areas too. Let's see here. Ellen says, if you focus more in on two for a while, which is what you're saying with your images, maybe it could free you up completely. I do agree with that, and that's why I love these videos, of really diving in deep on creative thought process, diving in deep as to what is it that we're trying to say, diving in deep as to who am I as an individual first and foremost, and then how does that inform who I am as an artist, like diving in deep on these subjects, because when I actually have a more secure foundation and understanding of who I am, not not linked to all the things that I do, but who I am. It allows me to mold and allow the things that I do to really serve the purpose of what it is that I'm trying to say, what it is that I'm trying to express, what it is that I'm trying to offer to the world. So it's huge. Weston, what's up, buddy? Good seeing you out there. Daniel says, for me, creative aesthetic partly grows from a desire to master workflow so that I can focus on subject of story, sort of an extension of minimalism or the shortest path to the destination mentality. I guess, Daniel, which, by the way, good seeing you in here, buddy. I haven't seen you in a while. We need to get coffee soon. Daniel lives in town here, and he's awesome. So yes, we need to get coffee soon. I think I understand what you mean. I might need you to expand out on that a little bit more, but just to make sure that I'm not misunderstanding you. But again, like I'm saying, it's not about, everything's free flow and you don't need to master anything. You don't need to hone in on anything. There's definitely honing skills here, but honing skills, understanding that they're tools in a toolbox to serve, not to be the thing that we're trying to say with our artwork. All right. Andrew says, I think you have to be willing to part from success. If you stick to the photo, willing to part from success, if you stick to a photo aesthetic and it is successful, it becomes difficult to feed your creative whims, to change failures. Yeah, I do think that plays a part into it. Once again, one of our human needs is affirmation, right? One of our human needs is acceptance. And when we create an image, so let's say the birds in flight image, when I created that, something definitely happened inside. And if you look at my work before that, there was definitely some moody stuff, but after that, I started making a lot more moody work because I had seen what worked within the community. I had seen what worked within my tribe, and internally, I didn't necessarily think this. It wasn't like, I need to make images like that, and that's how I'll succeed. But internally, I started going, that worked. How can I recreate something like that? And that went on for a bit, and I was kind of chasing down the rabbit holes of moody images and stuff and I made some good work in there, but it was actually when I took a step away from that once again and started going, okay, fail or succeed, all that aside, how can I chase down the idea of what would happen if? How can I chase down the idea of having a conversation with something? How can I chase down the idea of cataloging my curiosity? How can I chase those ideas down? Whether or not the community relates to them or not, how can I chase that stuff down? Because if I'm not best expressing the things that are inside of me, I'm going to constantly feel like I'm a second-rate photographer, that I'm a second-rate artist, that I'm a second-rate, community member within the community. And it's actually understanding actually running down those creative whims versus it's exactly what you just said, Andrew. I absolutely love that. And I think that sometimes we do need to die to the idea of success. Sometimes we need to kill our babies, right? For lack of better terminology. That's a very, very terrible saying. And I don't know where it started, but I've heard it all my life. But it's one of these things to where, sometimes being hung up on the last successful image will actually hold us off from making the next body of work, because we think that that's what success is. Well, as soon as we've labeled that as success, then we go, okay, that's success. And our mind starts to go, how do I obtain that again? And the thing is, we're never going to obtain that again, because that image is already gone. That image has already been made. That image has already had its success. It might continue to grow in success, but to create another image like it, it will always be the replica of the original. Even if it's not the same image, it still becomes a replica of the original. And that's not creativity at all. Yeah, I don't know. I think some really good points are getting brought up here. So real quick, by the way, just because we're kind of at a good halfway point, but once again, if you're liking this video, give it a thumbs up if you're liking this conversation, and thank you everyone for sharing your thoughts on this conversation. We're going to keep rolling here in a second, but I always like to stop and do kind of a little brief intermission, so that way my brain can kind of catch up, because I constantly throw out thoughts and then all of a sudden I get like backwound or something. But then also too, to be able to just give you guys a huge shout out, just to celebrate some things. If you didn't see the video earlier this week, first of all, there's a contest going on the channel, so check out yesterday's video, different from this morning's video. But yesterday's video, I'm giving away some soft release buttons for your shutter on your camera. I have a button here to kind of give you guys an idea of what they, if I can hold this, of what they look like. But then that goes on your shutter, and it allows you to, it's kind of like a hairline trigger to a rifle or anything like that. But I got 4 of those that I'm giving away. And then the book that I'm giving away is downstairs as well. But Jeffrey Sidoris, who is a great friend of the channel, pops in, which, by the way, Jeffrey, if you're in the shadows here, I know that you join in on the live streams quite a bit. Hey, buddy, good seeing you. But anyways, wrote an amazing book called Photography by the Letter, and it's essentially the encyclopedia of photography. You'll learn terms that you didn't even know existed within photography, and he did an amazing job with it. So I'm giving both of those things away. That could be found on yesterday's video, so go check that out. I also gave a recap for where I've been over the last month and a half of not making videos and not being too plugged in, and some of the social media aspects. So shared all that stuff, kind of got a little vulnerable with some of the things that Emily and I have been going through financially and stuff like that, but you could see all that stuff over on the video yesterday. And then a huge shout out to and a thank you for all of our patrons that are in here on the call. I see Alan is a patron, we got Spencer in here, we got I don't know who else is in here. John Roberts, are you a patron? I think you are. If you're not, now's a good time to become one. But anyways, Jules is in here. Yeah, Mark. No, Mark's not one, right? I don't know. Mark, are you a patron? I don't know. I should know. I should just have like a constant Rolodex of all the patrons. But anyways, thank you guys. If you want to check out the Patreon effort, it's patreon.com/NickExpose. It's also the top link in the description down below. So go check that out. You can support the channel, make more of these live streams available and stuff like that. So anyways, going back to the comments today. Finzi says, hello, great TMT today. Thank you so much, and it's good seeing you. I feel like I haven't seen your handle, your YouTube handle in like ages. It's probably been less than that, but it's good seeing you again. Spencer says, for me, it's hard for me to shoot color because I feel like the community won't like it because we're so focused on black and white film. When I want to shoot color, so it's tough. And again, it's going, are we going to build this thing to feed the beast of social media, or are we going to build this thing to be in a creative expression of who we are? And if you're going to feed the beast of social media, and Spencer, this isn't just directed at you, this is a blanket statement for all of us. If we're going to feed the beast of social media, then we also need to understand that we're essentially work for hire at that point. They're sourcing out our work for their likes, and if you're going to treat it that way, then you need to understand, when I did graphic design for myself, I absolutely loved it. When I did graphic design for other people, I loved it sometimes, I hated it other times. There's a point to where when we cross over the barrier and we cross over the threshold and we make it a product now that we're trying to sell to people, it becomes a completely different thing, and you're going to have much different highs and lows, because you're going to be riding really the emotions of the audience that you're trying to sell to. Whereas on the other hand, if you're creating, you're putting out there, whether it hits or whether it misses, based off of your creative vision, your curiosity, your mystery, your whatever it is, you'll be probably much more fulfilled at the end of the day. You'll have a lot more satisfaction in the things that you are creating, and then the people that actually connect with it will actually have experienced a much more real sense of who you are, because you're not holding things back from them because you don't think that they're going to like it. It's like being in a friendship and you go, I'm not going to tell people about this thing about me or this interest that I have, because what if they don't like it? Well, then you're actually holding a portion of yourself. Not that I'm not trying to put our identity in these things, but we're holding a portion of ourselves back from them to be able to vulnerably experience who we are, or at least our interests in different things like that. So my thoughts on that. Brendan Wilson says, after watching this video this morning, I decided I needed to condense down my photography genre and style. My photos are all over the place and I'm just not happy with it. And once again, yeah, sometimes it's going we're far too wide and we really need to hone in. Other times it's going we're so honed in that we need to go far wider. So I absolutely love hearing that. And Brendan, follow up with me in like 3 weeks, a month or something, and let me know how it's going. Finzi says, I actually branched out into other areas of photography a couple months ago. I was very dissatisfied with landscapes in my area and didn't know what to do with myself. Figured I needed to start shooting something a bit different. Nice. It can really make all the difference, allowing ourselves to get outside of the things that we've identified ourselves with. I should have brought water up here. I did not. Normally I have a water up here, and I don't have water in my fridge. Wes says, absolutely, I think you made my point. Go where your work is taking you, even if it leads you away from where your work is most accepted. Da Vinci is a great example of an artist who didn't confine himself. Absolutely. Da Vinci is like that dude's beyond just artist. I mean, the things that he did, the inventions that he had, like, oh, that guy was crazy. He didn't put himself in a box, and the world is a different place, literally a different place because of it. And the funny thing is, if you look at art history, Picasso did it. He created essentially the whole idea of collage. If you didn't know that, go watch some documentaries about Picasso. Picasso was one of the first people to ever do the art of collage. People just weren't doing that beforehand. He also like innovated in so many different ways, and it was because he allowed himself to be a dreamer. He allowed himself to run with whims. Like, I forget who was mentioning it. I think, Andrew, you were mentioning it up earlier, but allowed himself to run with the whims that he would have. And, you think about Edison in inventing the light bulb, or in all of his different inventions. What was it, the light bulb or the phone, to where he did 1,000 times and couldn't figure it out, or didn't do it the first 1,000 times, but he goes, I didn't fail 1,000 times. I just found 1,000 ways to not make a light bulb, or whatever it was that he was making. I forget. I think it was a light bulb, because Alexander Graham Bell was the phone. So anyways, I'm no history buff by any means, but at the same time, if you look at just ingenuity and where society was changed, where a culture was changed, where there's these flips within the world of whatever, whether it's the world of electricity, whether it's the world of art or anything like that, it was by people who were allowing themselves to dream and weren't allowing anybody else to put them in boxes, and they definitely weren't going to put themselves in boxes. So at least not in those areas of their life. I mean, if you know Picasso, he had a lot of just failures in a lot of other areas of his life. So anyways, Weston says, Spencer, what makes you think that? I think that color is refreshing to see. Don't do what you think the community will like. You do you. Yes. I read that, and I think there's a, I don't know if this is a global or a statewide store, but there's a store in town that's called UBU, and it's literally just the letters. And it's all about expressive, like, furniture. Anyways, you do you. I just think of that. You be you. John says, Nick, it almost looked like you needed a reboot for a second. You froze up. Video is fine here. Huh. Interesting. It seems to be running good on like, it looks like it's running good on mine. So I don't know. Maybe it was on your end, or maybe I'm actually having some issues with my internet. I don't know. Viva la Film, Jess, hey, good seeing you. Hey, Nick, so nice to have you back. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Weston says, I think that is an issue with us artists now. We're so worried about pleasing others and getting the likes, we forget that it is what we want to say and show completely. Sorry, I was butchering your eyes are starting to tweak out on me. I don't know. I think my contacts are drying out. But yeah, no, completely. And it's an interesting thing, because we have immediate feedback now. Whereas in the past, people would make things and then they'd have to put it up at a gallery showing or a soft opening or any of these different things, where they'd come and have a critique session in their studios before they could actually get feedback on stuff, and a lot of times it was passion projects, but or people would use the other projects that they would do to fund the passion projects that they would do. I think of Goya and his patronage that he had with, I forget the king, but Goya would do, under the king's patronage, would do all these personal projects that were really kind of speaking against the king. Actually, it kind of ironic, but his different etchings and his different drawings and all these different things. And another artist that he used the acceptance and the kind of the paid work in one area of his life, but it didn't allow him to define himself. He actually, for his personal work, was making stuff actually against the very thing that he was being paid to make work for. So very, very ironic and interesting, if I'm not mixing that story up. But it's one of these things towards going, there's definitely times, I'm not going to lie, if you look at my Instagram feed, there is times where I put out a photo of my Leica on my Instagram feed, because I know that anytime I post a photo of the Leica, it will bring in like 25 new followers, and 800 likes or something like that. There's times to feed the algorithm that way. There's times to feed the beast that way, because what I hope is, if they come in and they follow the account because of the photo of the Leica, hopefully they'll connect with my other work, and then I'll be able to actually have conversation with them. So there's times where it's going, okay, I understand. There's even a way to where the community has told me what they want to see. Obviously, most of the photography community wants to see photos of cameras. At the same time, back in 2015, when that was all I was posting, I was getting a lot of likes. I was getting new subscribers, followers, or whatever, whatever you want to call them. But there was no interaction. There was no life to the conversation, because I wasn't actually offering a piece of myself to people. I was offering the piece of myself that I knew that they wanted to see, if that makes sense. And it's a really, I don't know, that's a big topic in and of itself. And we've talked about it so many different times in the past, but I think that there's other areas that we can go into with it. John Kramer, hey buddy, good seeing you out there. Some really awesome news. I recently set up an Etsy account, received my first order in an 8x12, and fulfilled the order this afternoon. Hey, congrats. That's fantastic. I don't want to make any assumptions, but did the selling your work series that I did 2 months ago, did that help at all? I would really love to hear. An 8x12, that's a beautiful size for a print. Congrats, buddy. I'm really proud of you for taking that step. A lot of people are still paralyzed in taking that first step, so that's huge. All right, let's see here. Oh, I got you. John Roberts was, you were trolling me, I think is what you're saying. When I was collecting my thought, I kind of went, it probably looked like it had frozen up. That's funny. All right. Jacob says, that thought is something to latch onto. What we say versus how we say it. The process is saying something easy. The process is something easy to showcase. Showing what we want to say takes time and energy. It's the high road, the hard one. And it definitely is. And I think that that's why these videos don't do as well on my channel. Here's case in point is, and I made a video, honestly, like, you guys already know this. I've fallen into this trap in the past on the channel here, to where I made the video to where I was like, sometimes I just feel like quitting, because the videos that I make about gear, the videos that I make about film process, the videos that I make about that stuff gets into like the 20,000s, right? And then these videos get like 500 views. And it's just going like, what do I need to do to get people on the same page as this conversation? But it's the high road. Not everybody wants to dive into this. It's much easier for us to go, hey, look at me developing film. And I enjoy that stuff. I like sharing that stuff. And I'll make a video about developing film soon. But at the same time, that's the easy way of showing artistry. But it doesn't actually have anything to say. That I don't know. It's easy to master a camera. It's easy to know the ins and outs of a camera. It's easy to geek out on the history of a camera. It's not so easy to actually understand what you're trying to say with the project. And I'm much more to the point now to where I've gotten plenty of zines in the mail. I've purchased a lot of zines, and I'm looking at projects, and I'm going, at this point, I don't need to build a giant collection of zines. I have 75 to 100 zines right down below me. I'm looking at people going, I don't want to just see good images. I don't want to just see that you're a good photographer. I want to know what you're trying to tell me with your photography. In the end, you can present me mediocre images that have a compelling storyline, that have a compelling narrative, that ask compelling questions, that bring me to a place that I've never been brought before, or in a way that I've never been brought before. That will be much more intriguing to me than just a booklet of a lot of awesome images. I see awesome images all the time. I want to actually have an experience with these images. I want to have an experience with a project that brings me places. And it's going, as I'm critiquing things just for the sake of going, what am I going to actually show on, the community zine videos, and what am I actually going to spend my money on and, purchase that way, and different things like that. I'm just really looking at things going, I'm watching how so many people have a lot of things that they're saying, but they have literally nothing to say. They're throwing out all their tech sheets on film. They're throwing all their tech sheets on developing. They're throwing out all the tech sheets. That stuff's needed, like that's process, and it's not a bad thing. But at the same time, if that's all someone's going to focus on, I've been unfollowing a lot of accounts recently. Because if I don't see work that has narrative to it, if I don't see work that's engaging and compelling or anything, if somebody's just posting photos of their camera, if somebody's just posting photos of their developing sessions, but isn't actually being vulnerable to share anything, or isn't actually being vulnerable to say anything with it, then I'm just going, you're really offering nothing to the community, and I don't want to have you cluttering up my feed, and that might sound harsh, and I don't mean it to. It's just one of these things where I'm really realizing if I'm going to be very intentional on trying to hone in on the things that I'm saying, then I want to be surrounded by other people that are being intentional on honing things that they're trying to say. In the meantime, we can talk about gear. Whenever Jacob and I spent 3 days, literally from morning to evening, 3 days together, walking around the city of New York, and it was amazing. And we talked so much about gear, we talked so much about process, but at the same time, we talked so much about what is it that you're trying to say with images. What is it that draws you to pigeons, Jacob? And then he would ask me the exact same question back, and we would just geek out on pigeons. But anyways, Jacob, you're completely right. It's a hard one for people to take. It's a hard road for people to take. Not everyone's going to dive into these conversations with us, but at the same time, the 21 people that we have on here, I respect more so than the millions of people that are out there making, compelling images, but aren't really saying anything with them, aren't really offering anything to the world with it. They're just making the images that they know are going to get them followers. They're just making the images that they know are going to get them likes. And there's actually, I think there's it was a brilliant channel that it ended up in the all format collective conversation that we have rolling. And somebody had shared it, and I think it was called like the Deja Vu account or something like that. And literally what this account is they'll build this, it's not even a triptych, it's like, there'll be like 25 images or something. There's like 4 rows of 4 in the square image that ends up on Instagram. And and what it is it's Instagram posts from 24 different, people, or 16 different people, whatever it is. It's these Instagram posts, and it's the exact same image across the board. It's just people who went to the exact same place to shoot the exact same image because they've seen that image got all the likes on Instagram. So they go, oh, there's the plane over in whatever, Iceland or whatever it is, Greenland or something. And everyone starts going over to the plane in Greenland, not out of curiosity, but based off of that gets a lot of likes. That's what people want to see. So I'm going to go create that. And it's just sad. Chris Geelan says, when I travel, I never have any problems, but I know I'm better working in projects. It keeps me sharp and creative, but back home is where I struggle. In contrary belief, Amsterdam is quite boring. You say that, but then somebody that travels to Amsterdam for the first time probably finds it very fascinating. So, and again, it's one of those things to where maybe you've tapped out the different streams of curiosity that you've run down in Amsterdam. Start asking I tell this to people so often. Start asking yourself a different set of questions about your city. That's it. If you don't know the history of your city, maybe living in Amsterdam just because there is so much history, maybe you do. But if you don't know the history of your city, start asking yourself, what's the history of my city? Start researching it. And then all of a sudden you'll start being drawn to different things that you didn't realize. Wait a second, this is a historic monument? And now I'm cataloging something and finding interest in something because this thing is 800 years old and I didn't realize that. I walk past it on a daily basis, right? Different things like that. So just an idea for you. But I find that when I hit a slump, it's because I'm not asking myself very intriguing questions. Once again, it's knowing what it is that you're trying to say with things. So asking yourselves a bit more of an intriguing question might actually open up some other doors and avenues that you haven't seen in the Amsterdam streets. Spencer says, yo, Nick, I'm 50% done with that project that we discussed. Nice. I'm excited about that. I can't wait to see what that looks like. Jan says, good afternoon, everyone. It's been a while. Yes, it has. Good seeing you in here. Andrew says, this is a great conversation, by the way. Would make a great podcast or something with a couple guests. Yes, it would. Nick and his bird pictures, yeah. and Jacob and his bird pictures. So one of the things that we could talk about this in a second, and I do want to go down this route, and I want to end kind of around 6:30 my time, so that's in 20 minutes. But one of the things that I want to do with the next iteration of what 2 Minute Tuesday shall become, which so far I didn't check before the live stream, but earlier this morning when I put up the question about the developing session and the whole idea around rebranding this thing, is that it seemed like most everyone was voting yes. Maybe that changed midday and maybe it's, a 70-30 no, but at the same time, whatever it does evolve into, I do want to start stripping this audio. I've talked about it in the past, and I want to start stripping this audio from the live streams and editing it down to a podcast episode to where we can kind of catalog these types of conversations, because I understand that the playback of this is having to watch it on a YouTube channel can be kind of cumbersome. You don't even need to necessarily, it's my face the entire time. I don't even expect people to want to watch that. It's literally an hour and a half of my face and me talking and reading off stuff. But on the flip side, on the other side is being able to take out some of the pauses and kind of condensing this down to, maybe a 30-40 minute conversation that could go up on iTunes, could go up as a podcast and actually have probably even more value as a replay element later that way. So that's something, whether it's called developing sessions in the future or not, that's something that I want to do with these live streams moving forward. And I'll probably restructure them maybe a little bit to kind of suit that a little bit more. But Mike says, close to midnight over here, but it's too hot to sleep. So here I am. Hi, everyone. Hey, buddy. Good seeing you out there. And thanks for joining us. Alan says, I actually think you nailed it with the phrase, don't idolize the process. Good rule of thumb, in my opinion. Not easy to do because the problem is so damn infectious. Yes, it is. It really is. The process is very alluring, especially, and this is the thing, is when we start to learn a new process, when we start to learn a new thing, it's so enticing. It's so much fun to just run down that avenue, and we can very easily make it the thing for a season of time, and maybe that needs to happen in order for us to hone in on it, right? if you're getting into darkroom printing, one of the best things you could do is take an extended period of time and just run through in darkroom print over and over and over again to get the muscle memory, so to speak, in there, you know, to really establish that skill set in and to burn it into you know, your tool belt. But to just stop there and to just, you know, to just make darkroom printing the next thing is once again getting back to a process thing. So I completely agree. Jacob says, gotta bounce, keep building the community. You know I always will. So thanks, buddy. Thanks for being in here and being an awesome moderator. I noticed that you didn't have to moderate anybody, but I appreciate it. It's probably that blue wrench that just intimidates people. They're like, Jacob's just going to take me out with that blue wrench. Daniel says, to follow up, I feel discouraged when an image doesn't live up to personal expectations. To keep my priorities straight, I streamline the workflow. Interesting. So I don't feel held back by the process of outputting an image, and instead focus on the purpose of the image. Yeah, and that's one of the things too. This drastically changed for me when I started doing zines, when I started doing book projects, when I started doing exhibitions. Was I started realizing that I can no longer judge the merit of a photo based off of the photo itself. For me now, it's much more about building a narrative with it, and it's going, these giant expectations that we might build for these photos, you know, I think the only way that they get, not the only way, but I think oftentimes they're fulfilled in the combination of other pieces, in the combination of other works, to where things start to come together. In unless the image that you're trying to create has the capability of you know, encapsulating the entire idea that you're trying to run down, sometimes it's just impossible. And to have the expectations that it would do the entire task itself, that would be like having the expectation that having just a drum do the drum solo of a song would bring out the perfect song. For somebody, that might be the case, but for most people, we also prefer, you know, the different vocals, the, you know, guitar, the stringed instruments, all the different things that we would add to a drum line versus just having a drum trying to hold up the entire song. And if you're going, I just expect this drum to be able to encapsulate an entire album's worth of epicness, it's just not going to happen. And we need to understand what our expectations should be. And when I started building projects, when I started building zines, it became a completely different thing for me. It's no longer me looking at an image going, oh, that failed. It's me looking at an image going, okay, I can see where this would be a piece of the puzzle. Or maybe I don't see where it would be a piece of the puzzle, but it might open up to that later on when I actually have a new perspective. So at least that point allowed me to be able to hold things at much more of an arm's length reach when going through the process of developing and scanning and stuff like that. I no longer think that my next image has to be, you know, Bresson's person jumping over the puddle image. You know, it just can't. Those images are few and far between, and they're an anomaly. For us to have the expectation that that's what it's going to be is kind of a fallacy, I think, in my opinion, in my workflow, in my artistic process. So, and Daniel, you know me enough to know that that's not an attack on you. John says, I'm not at the moment, but I was thinking exactly that just last night after watching your video. Oh, about the okay, about the Patreon. Nice, thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. And thank you. If any of you guys jump on and start supporting me on Patreon during this live stream, I want you to let me know, because I want to celebrate that with you here on the live stream and give you some dabs, as Gary V always says. I think I said that right. I'm so not hip and with it. Hannah says, sorry for the lack of comments. Also, Mark says, I'm here. I'm lurking. Nice. Good seeing you, buddy. Hannah says, sorry for the lack of comments. I've just been listening in and agreeing with everything we've covered. We should definitely create the art that truly reflects ourselves instead of concentrating on others' opinions of our work. Absolutely. Completely. Spencer says, I think I'm going to shoot color more. Also, just lack of motivation right now is beating me down. I understand that. And trust me, I go through these giant spurts of lack of motivation, and at that point, I am my own worst enemy. I take so many shots at myself and really, really tear my whole process down. And then that's also when I put myself in a crazy depression, because I just start beating myself up like, you'll never be this, you'll never be that, your images are, and it's a bad headspace. So Spencer, I'm here for you, buddy. If you need to wrap through some things, we can definitely talk it out. Hannah says, whether that be film stocks, cameras, styles, we should be as free as possible in our art form and not set constraints on ourselves too much. 100%. Go ahead and open a beer. Nice. Let's see here. I'm gonna try and kind of whiz through some of these. That's a terrible word to use. Anybody in, I don't know if whiz means anything overseas, but in the States it means something that I'm not trying to say. So I'm gonna try and run through a lot of these comments, get kind of caught up, and then take the last 5 to 10 minutes here to kind of talk about the direction moving forward, and hear some of you guys' thoughts as to where the 2 Minute Tuesday and whatever it becomes will go. Let's see here. Mike says there's a feedback loop. There's Spencer, where action breeds motivation rather than motivation breeds action, and I do agree with that in a very, very large state. Oftentimes, and this is honestly one of my big keys, and I've thought about making this a 2 Minute Tuesday in the past. Literally, is the fact that if I'm feeling unmotivated, I will literally just stop. If I have dishes to do in the sink, I will go and wash the dishes. And I can't even describe it. Or I'll clean my office, which I really need to do. And I'm just waiting for the next lack of motivation. That's what will motivate me to clean the office. So that way I can motivate myself, right? But honestly, just cleaning the dishes, just washing the dishes gives me so much energy and allows me to jump into, honestly, Sunday when I recorded the last 2 videos. I did the dishes before recording the videos because it just gives me motivation for whatever reason. So, yeah. Thanks for the fantastic conversation. I'm out now. Bye, everyone. See you, Wes. Good seeing you in here. Alan says, it might depend on where you are in development too. For example, I still think of myself as a student of photography rather than a developed artist, so I experiment more in order to learn. And honestly, I'm kind of along the mindset of, I don't claim to have any expertise in anything. I'll share my experience with people, but I kind of fall in much more in the mindset of we should always be students of the art form, students of life, students of curiosity. And I think that will serve us much better than trying to, master any one thing. Mastery is, I don't know. Yeah, I'm catching myself realizing that I'll run down a rabbit trail that I don't necessarily want to run down right now. Mike says, Alan, and then you might feel the need to branch out again. It's a push-pull thing. John says, Nick exposed hashtag film camera porn is a huge part of our gas and drives us. Yeah, it's huge. It's seeing all sorts of different, cameras. I'm doing it with watches right now. Anytime a watch pops up on my feed, I immediately run over to eBay to check out and see if it's an affordable watch that I can actually buy. Even though I can't afford anything right now. But yeah, no, it's a huge part of the thing. And maybe it's that we need to stop, subscribing to the different gear-based channels. Maybe it's something that we just need to understand will put us in a weird headspace, and we need to just remove out of our feed altogether. So, I don't know, just an idea. Hannah says, I think it's always great to experiment with our photography, Alan. And I also think that we are all students of photography as we all continue to keep learning in particular form. Yes, absolutely. Yay, we're growing. Nice. Let's see here. Just saying hi from the Netherlands, but need to sleep. Well, Rob, good seeing you in here. Thanks for stopping in. Amsterdam is boring. Around Amsterdam is better. That's funny. The deja vu account is amazing. Yes, it is. All right. Great. For the most part, I think we're caught up, and I think that we've kind of really beat this topic around in all sorts of different angles. So thank you guys for really just diving into that topic with me. I really appreciate that. So the last couple minutes here, last 5 minutes or so, I kind of want to talk about and kind of throw this idea out to you. Maybe we have time for you guys to respond back. Maybe we don't. If we end up ending, and if you have some thoughts that you want to share, definitely feel free to message me over on Instagram at Nick Exposed. But moving forward, so like I said in the video this morning, like I kind of hinted at in the video yesterday, is I'm really wanting to change this for hopefully the better. I want to be able to open this up to other areas for us to be able to dive into, still along the idea of creative process, creative driven stuff, thought process driven stuff, philosophy around our artwork, all these different things that we've done for the 2 Minute Tuesdays for really the first 2 seasons. Like I said, I'm really leaning towards moving towards the developing sessions. I was actually just talking to someone this morning or yesterday about getting some actual graphics made. Like I kind of want to turn it not necessarily into this really polished thing, because I think that there's still a bit to be had in this kind of raw and unpolished kind of approach that we take on this kind of stuff. And oftentimes I don't have the time to be able to polish things. If I'm recording something on a Monday night and it needs to go up Tuesday morning at 3 a.m., and to answer questions, I post them up at 3 a.m. on Tuesday mornings for all of my UK and overseas crowd. So that one's for you guys, because you guys are up way earlier than I am. And if I'm posting at 9, all of you guys are, at work or whatever. So on Mondays, if I'm recording something and then I got to cut it together, edit it, export it, and upload it that evening to get it out early, it's a big task to try and polish it up as well. But at the same time, if I get like an opening buffer and an ending buffer and kind of streamline some of that stuff, I think we could really make this conversation a little bit more approachable to even to a larger market. I'm thinking about possibly introducing, and just to kind of let you guys know what's running through my head, I'm thinking about possibly reintroducing kind of background tracks to it, just to kind of make it maybe a little bit more upbeat. If you're okay with it not having background tracks, if you're okay with it just being the audio of me talking to a camera, let me know that too. I don't know. I used to use background tracks all the time, but I had to source those out quite a bit, and then there was just all sorts of copyright issues to where all of a sudden someone would change something from a non-copyright to a copyright, and my video would get flagged later on. And now there's a couple videos. I don't monetize the videos in that way, but there's a couple videos on the channel that actually have ads on them, and it drives me nuts because whoever it is that wrote the song, whoever it is that ended up monetizing that song, ended up being able to put ads on my videos, and that drives me nuts. I absolutely hate the fact that people have to watch through ads in order to get to the content. I've kept it, we're going on 1.5 years now, and I've kept it ad free the entire time. So I want to continue keeping it that way. That's why we have the Patreon effort and everything like that. But with all that being said, with some of the income coming in from Patreon, one of the things that it opens me up to being able to do is being able to sign up for a non-copyright music service, to where I could actually get some background tracks or whatever. My big point is I really want to introduce these topics and these conversations to a larger audience. I want to bring people, it might be a bit of a walk. It's going to be getting people to understand the need for these kind of in-depth conversations, because some people just don't see the need for it. Some people are going, oh, you guys are just over there being super philosophical. I'm over here creating work while you guys are on a live stream, and it's going, look, but at the same time, we're investing into the work that we're going to create in the future. And I want people to be able to understand that. I want it to be, essentially what I'm saying is I'm trying to get to the point to where the series seems much more friendly to more people without losing the essence of what it is. So I'm not gonna deviate from any of the topics that we're diving into. I'm going to bring up some hard topics for us to be able to dive into as a community, but at the same time, the overarching shell that it gets presented in, I kind of want to polish it up a little bit and kind of have it a little bit more presentable to where maybe if they were going to click out, they might just stick around just because it's a well-produced video or something like that. So I don't know. John says, I don't mind it being you just talking. It allows us to focus just on the topic. And I do appreciate that as well. So I don't know. I'm at a cross for that, but I just kind of want to let you guys know a little bit about, of, you know, what it is that I'm wrestling through. So Alan says, I like the development sessions idea. Use background tracks if you like, Nick. There might be even someone who produces music on here, who could provide you themed music without copyright. Just the thought. Yeah, and I've actually had 3 or 4 people tell me that they would give me non-copyright music, but they just never followed through with it. So I'm open to that too, but yeah. Your content deserves more eyes, Nick, so any jazzing up you want to do, I'm cool with. Thanks. I appreciate that, buddy. And again, it's not, this isn't me. I've said it so many times, and I absolutely mean it. This isn't me trying to go, oh, I want to be Instagram or YouTube famous. This is legitimately me going, look, I love this community. I love the things that this community is doing. But if we want to watch this community hit the next level, then we need to have conversations that we aren't having anywhere else. And if I could facilitate those conversations for us, if I could bring in other creatives to be able to have conversations, I haven't lost the idea of the interview series. I still want to do that. I'm still going to do that. Working that out. I don't want to make a bunch of promises that I can't uphold within my schedule. So I'm trying to take it one piece at a time right now. But at the same time, in the future, I want to be able to bring on other creatives, bring on other photographers, and really kind of dive into some of these topics with them. It's also something that I'm excited about with all format. You know, as a collective, we're talking about starting a collective podcast and diving into thought process and creative process and all these different things as well. So hopefully those conversations will happen as well over there. But I think that this is a place, Nick Exposed, this platform is a place to where I'm going to continue pressing into topics that not everyone's going to want to talk about. But at the same time, if you guys could partner with me in putting them in front of as many people as we possibly can, I think we'll start to see more people adding in on the conversation. And I think it's only going to make the conversations that much more powerful. Every single time one of you guys shares from a place of vulnerability and goes, hey, this is what I'm going through on this topic, it just brings the topic to a completely different level. It opens up areas of our conversation that I would have never brought it. So being able to bring them in on the conversation as well, and being able to Sean, what's up, buddy? Good seeing you out there. Being able to have them be part of that as well can only raise the tide of this conversation in the first place. So about the larger audience, I think this format wouldn't work too well with too big of a crowd because the chat gets too busy. You know, and I also don't think that we're ever going to have to really worry about it getting to the point to where the chat is just completely destroyed, you know. A bigger audience, we have 25 people, you know, at any given moment on this live stream. And I think we can handle 50 to 75 to 100, and having a lot of thoughts and different things like that going through, I think would be absolutely fantastic. So I think we have room to grow. At the same time, I'm not going, hey, let's get these live streams to like 100,000 views or anything like that. You know, I just want to get more people in on the conversation. So, or more people lurking in the backgrounds. As we think as the numbers grow that everyone's going to have a voice in the conversation. But let's be honest, within we've probably had 120 people jump on throughout the last hour and a half. And really only 30 of us are actually having the overt conversation. Everyone else is sitting in the background kind of watching. And that tends to be the stats throughout. So Anna says, love the idea of the rebrand, and the name Develop Sessions is perfect. Yeah, I thought so too. Absolutely love that. And then I was thinking and part of me goes, okay, I already have one cheesy name. Not that Development Sessions is cheesy, but it can be, if you think about it in that way. But I thought about the other like the highlight video that I want to do, like the Friday or Saturday series, whatever that might look like. Calling that one like the contact sheet or something. You have the developing session and the contact sheet or something fun. I don't know. Again, I don't know. I don't want to go too far down the line of making things like, oh, look at it's funny name, but at the same time, sometimes it's fun to just kind of have a fun name like that. Mike says, I think that this content, TMT, and the live stream is super valuable and deserves more attention. Maybe short extracts of your answers you gave in the live stream would work well for Instagram TV. That's not a bad idea. Honestly, that's actually a really good idea. You know, Mike, I'll actually consider that, because as far as Instagram TV, I've talked about it in the past, but it's one of these things where I'm kind of at this place where I'm going, I don't know, I'm already juggling multiple platforms, and to do it all well would be kind of difficult. But at the same time, to cut down something to where we really kind of dug in deep on a topic and putting up a 4-minute clip, 3-minute clip, 10-minute clip, whatever it might be, that's actually a really good idea. Or even putting them up as mini pieces of content on the channel. I know that Gary V, if you guys follow him, amazing with social media. Most of his videos are actually reposts from other videos. You know, it's like little clips from a video that he posted up 3 months ago, but they wanted to cut it down and put the little bite-sized chunk up this time around, and stuff like that. So it might actually be worth going back through the live streams and actually pulling out some even older like live streams from beginning of the year and pulling out segments and posting some of those segments up. So it's a good idea, Mike. I appreciate that, and I'm really going to take that one to heart. Andrew says, this live stream has been amazing. Glad you're back. Thanks so much. You're a chill guy, and you can handle more people on YouTube. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I try to be chill. Dylan says, which, by the way, Dylan, I think this is your first comment in here. I don't know that I've seen you in here, but good seeing you. I'm all in as long as I get weekly Nick wisdom. That's funny. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. Really good seeing you in here. Gil says, can I send a disposable camera to you for a project? Absolutely. My P.O. box is actually in the description of this video. You could send it right to that, leave instructions, or shoot me a message over on Instagram letting me know what the instructions are. And yeah, if it's something that you're looking for me to shoot, I'll definitely do it. If it's something that, yeah, you have other ideas on, let me know what it is. So Dylan says, I just made it in, taking naps whenever the kiddos let me. Nice. I can imagine that would be difficult. Awesome. Well, I think that this is a great place to end. So once again, thank you guys. I know that we got 18 people left on here. If you like the video, if you like the thing, give it thumbs up. Check out the Patreon page. Once again, it's just a great way to keep these things going. I don't want to bring this up. I'm not trying to guilt anyone into doing this, but it's with Emily and I having some financial struggles recently. The Patreon crowd has really been a giant support structure and making it to where these kind of things can still be a priority for me. And, there's a bit to where now that I have a bit of Patreon income coming in and paying for the more expensive internet that I need for live streams like this, paying for some of the stuff, it justifies the ability of being able to go, look, I'm taking my Tuesday afternoons versus pouring it into my work. I get to pour it into you guys and get to do this stuff. I get to take Sundays and Mondays and be able to make videos and stuff like that. So check it out, patreon.com/NickExposed. There's all sorts of different reward levels. And for everyone that is a Patreon, I know that I have been slacking on some of the rewards. Those are coming out. I have the print package going out soon. I'm working on a zine, so anybody that's at the zine level that's getting early access to zines, hopefully I'll be sharing some really up-to-date progress with that with you guys soon, and then trying to get something in your hands as soon as possible as far as zine wise. But prints will be coming out. I'm doing a darkroom session hopefully this week. Friday is my big plan for doing the darkroom session, so as long as I could get that done and underway, you guys will actually have some darkroom prints on their way to your doorstep to where you can enjoy some I think even fiber-based prints, because I have what's it called, a heat press on its way in, so now I could actually print more fiber-based stuff and not worry about the curl of the paper. Anyways, all that being said, go check out patreon.com. Thank you guys. I love you guys. This has been an absolutely amazing conversation. It's exactly what I needed to get back into the whole swing of things with the 2-Minute Tuesdays and everything. So you guys got me jacked up, amped up, ready to dive into the development sessions in the future and the other videos that we're going to be doing in the upcoming weeks. So thank you guys. I love you guys. I will see you guys on the next episode. And until then, go and push yourselves. 2 stops. Peace.